The clips in this video are from contests prior to the outbreak of COVID-19 and may not represent best practices in the current climate. Please refer to the Resocialization of Collegiate Sport, Developing Standards for Practices and Competition on ncaa.org for new guidance specific to the prevention of community spread of COVID-19 in the athletic setting. Welcome to the 2020 Weight Management Program presentation. This video contains both new information and provides important reminders in how to effectively execute NCAA required weight assessments. In addition to the requirement of viewing this presentation, all medical personnel should read Chapter 8 of the 2019-2021 Wrestling Rules Book and study the weight management packet sent to your institution. Reviewing the weight management rules and procedural guidelines will ensure you have the information and skills necessary to conduct efficient, effective, and accurate weight assessments. The NCAA Weight Management Program rules, processes, and procedures were developed in the late 1990s in response to the unfortunate deaths of several student athletes. Since its implementation, these processes and other associated wrestling rules have brought about a dramatic change in the practices related to weight loss and the selection of the most appropriate competition weight classification for each student athlete. The two most important individuals in the weight assessment process are the head wrestling coach and the medical personnel in charge of executing the weight assessment. It is imperative that both of these institutional leaders set the tone within their team regarding the important rationale for the weight assessment. We ask that each institution review with their team the importance of this process and how it will help them select the most appropriate weight classification for the upcoming season. Coaches and medical personnel need to be aware that timelines related to weight management could change based upon the potential impact on the wrestling season. Any changes to timelines or guidelines will be communicated using email. When executing weight assessments, coaches and medical personnel should ensure that their processes adhere to all federal, state, and local coronavirus guidelines. 2019-20 Weight Management Violations Review. To educate coaches and medical personnel regarding common rules and protocol violations that occur, the Rules Committee is providing an overview of last year's weight management violations and their penalties. During the 2019-20 season, the Rules Committee suspended 2 wrestlers for 8 dates of competition for a Rule 9.5.4 violation of wearing a vapor impermeable suit. Who must certify? Per Rule 8.2.1, any wrestler whose name appears on an institutional roster shall comply with the Weight Management Program regulations and procedures found both in the NCAA Wrestling Rules Book and in the annually distributed NCAA Weight Management Program packet. Student athletes transferring at mid-year from non-NCAA institutions to an NCAA institution must complete the assessment process at the NCAA school. Student athletes transferring mid-year from one NCAA institution to another do not have to be reassessed. To request a transfer of the student athlete's certification data, medical personnel should submit a track wrestling ticket that will be reviewed by the NCAA Weight Management Liaison. If the Weight Management Liaison approves the request, track wrestling will transfer the data to the new school. Timelines. The rules state that wrestlers on the preseason roster may have a weight assessment executed no sooner than the first day of classes. As in previous years, wrestlers are allowed to practice prior to the assessment taking place. However, in order to continue practicing, each wrestler must have an assessment completed prior to the first date of allowable competition, which is November 1st. Individuals on the preseason roster who have not certified by November 1st shall not practice until the certification is complete. The November 1st deadline for wrestlers to certify is relatively new, so it is important to closely monitor each wrestler's projected weight loss descent plan when establishing your assessment dates. Please remember, competing at a weight classification earlier than what is prescribed on the weight loss descent plan is a rules violation per the NCAA Wrestling Rules Book and should be reported to the weight management liaison. Student athletes added to the roster after November 1st must have a weight assessment performed prior to their first competition. Wrestlers who are injured or not sufficiently rehabilitated prior to November 1st may certify when released by the institutional medical personnel. As a final reminder, in all cases and regardless of when the assessment is performed, student athletes must always adhere to the 1.5% weight loss descent rule for descending down to their desired competition weight class. The Assessor. The Assessor is defined as the qualified medical personnel at each institution that is assigned to execute the NCAA Wrestling Weight Management Assessment Program. It is critical that the assessor stay in constant contact with the head coach throughout the assessment period. As the assessor, you should communicate with the head coach to develop an assessment schedule that works within the facility limitations and takes into account student-athlete scheduling conflicts. In addition to setting up the scheduling, the assessor is tasked with ensuring the process is executed with the highest integrity and according to all rules and regulations. Any violations by either student athletes or coaches regarding adherence to the weight assessment rules and protocols should be immediately directed to the NCAA staff contact. The responsibilities of the coach. While the medical personnel are responsible for ensuring the integrity of the weight assessment execution, the institutional head coach bears the responsibility for ensuring each coach, volunteer, and student athlete understands the importance of establishing a safe competition weight class and following all the rules associated with the process. In addition to educating team members regarding the purpose of the weight assessment process, it is critical that coaches explain the seriousness of any weight assessment violation. Violations impacting the integrity of the weight assessment process, such as urine manipulation or impersonating a student athlete, carry severe penalties. Weight assessment process overview. Let's now spend a few moments going through the weight assessment process. The weight assessment process can be broken up into 7 steps: urine-specific gravity test, weight check, skin fold measurements, entry of data into the optimal performance calculator, confirming data as accurate, coach confirmation of the student athlete's minimum wrestling weight, and finally, sharing the weight loss descent plan with the student athlete. Medical personnel at each institution should develop their own data collection document to record results of each test. This document, at a minimum, should have the full name of the student athlete, urine-specific gravity test results, actual weight, and the body fat measurement data, whether this be the skin fold caliper readings, underwater weighing results, or bod pod measurements. Medical personnel should maintain hard copy data sheets for each student athlete for 5 years. We will now talk a little bit about each of the data collection tests. Urine-specific gravity test. The urine-specific gravity test is a very important component of the weight assessment program. Please be sure to review the detailed urine collection guidelines outlined in the weight management program packet. As with any test, it is imperative to be accurate and to ensure you're reading the results correctly. Student athletes who fail the urine-specific gravity test should be provided feedback on the test results, so they may adjust their fluid intake accordingly on subsequent attempts. Weight check and body fat determination. After the urine-specific gravity check, student athletes will typically step onto the scale so their actual body weight can be recorded. After recording body weight, you would proceed on to the determination of body fat by using one of the 3 allowable methods: skin fold calipers, underwater weighing, or use of a bod pod. Your weight management program packet contains instructions for utilizing each of these data collection methods. Data entry and medical personnel confirmation. Once you've collected the data for student athletes who have completed the 3 data collection steps, you have 5 days from the collection date for the data to be inserted into the optimal performance calculator. If the data is not inserted into the OPC system within this time frame, the student athlete will need to be reassessed. After you've submitted student athlete data, an email will automatically be sent to the coach. However, it is a good practice to also verbally notify the coach when there are assessments that need reviewed. If medical personnel submit data and the coach does not confirm or deny the weight assessment within 48 hours, the information is automatically deleted and the student athlete must be reassessed. Detailed instructions on inputting data into the optimal performance calculator can be found at this website link. Coach's final confirmation. Once the data has been entered into the OPC by the medical personnel, the coach has 48 hours to confirm or deny the minimum weight classification for the student athlete. This screenshot, taken from the Optimal Performance Calculator, shows a sample view of a wrestler who has a weight assessment ready to be reviewed by the coach. Note the red time clock icon. This red icon indicates the assessment for this wrestler is ready to be reviewed by the coach. Before proceeding, the coach should review the information on the screen with the wrestler to ensure the correct minimum weight classification, listed as MWC on the screen, is being committed. If, after confirming with the student athlete that the minimum weight classification is correct, the coach can proceed to approve the assessment by clicking the red icon. On the next screen, the coach will click in the Edit Status box, and an option for either approving or denying this as the minimum weight class is given. If the coach wishes to approve the assessment, they will select Approve and then click Next. Once the coach clicks Next, a dialog box opens asking the coach to confirm the wrestler's last name and again to confirm the minimum weight class for the wrestler. Once the coach has typed the information into the dialog box and clicks Next, a final dialog box is opened and the coach is asked to confirm for the 3rd and final time that the assessment and the minimum weight class for the wrestler is correct. Note: confirming a weight class is not reversible, and the Rules Committee will not consider waivers or reviews. It is imperative that coaches discuss each minimum weight classification with the student athlete before making this irrevocable decision. Once the wrestler's minimum weight class has been confirmed, the track wrestling screen will display a green circle with a check mark instead of the original red circle. This green circle indicates the assessment has been confirmed for this student athlete. Questions and key points of contact. Any questions you have can be directed to the following individuals. For questions related to NCAA wrestling rules and/or the Wrestling Weight Management Program Packet, please contact Chuck Barbie. For help or assistance with the NWCA Track Wrestling Optimal Performance Calculator, please utilize the Track Wrestling Help Desk ticket system as your first line, and as a second option, Pat Tossi of the NWCA. For questions related to the execution of the weight assessment procedures, contact Jim Thornton. Mr. Thornton can also assist with questions throughout the season relating to medical examinations and skin infections. The NCAA Wrestling Rules Committee would like to thank each member of the medical personnel community for both your professionalism and your expertise in executing this important component of the 2019-20 NCAA wrestling season. Thank you and have a great season.